just nod your head or whatever. There we go. Good evening. I'm here to talk to you today about who needs a social worker. Now, this question came to me several years ago. I was in one of my first years working in a high school setting, and it was the first day of school for ninth graders. The ninth graders come in the day before all the other students come in. And we were being introduced to the ninth graders. Who do I mean by we? Who I mean by we is the social worker and the psychologist and the assistant dean, all the guidance counselors. We were all being introduced to the ninth graders. And there were about 140 of them because we're divided into teams in our high school. And our principal was introducing everybody. This is the guidance counselor, this is the other guidance counselor, this is the psychologist. And then she got to me and she said, "This is Mr. Bobier, our social worker." And from way back in the room, must have been the last row, I heard someone yell out, "Who needs a social worker anyway?" And that caught me off guard. I had a moment, sort of like a Fred Sanford moment, like, I'm coming to get you, Elizabeth. But it also made me think about that question, because I figured I should have an answer to that question. So that's what I'm going to do with you all today. I'm going to answer that question. Who needs a social worker? So the way I like to answer that question is by doing an interactive kind of thing with the students when I'm meeting with them. So since you're an audience, I'll kind of do it interactively. What I'm going to do is I'm going to call out some of the kinds of things that social workers deal with on a day-to-day basis. And if you have had a friend who has dealt with that thing, then I want you to raise your hand. I don't want to know if you've dealt with that thing, because we're just meeting each other, and I don't want to know your deep, dark secrets. I haven't done anything to earn the trust for you to tell me your deep, dark secrets. But if you have a friend who's dealt with that thing, I want you to raise your hand and let me know. Okay, so let's start. So the first thing is, does anybody have a friend who just moved to town and is maybe having a hard time finding friends? And invariably some hands will go up. Then I'll say, has anybody tried out for a team and gotten cut from that team? Anybody have a friend who's done that? More hands go up. And they put their hands down after each one. Does anybody have a friend who thought they should have gotten that part in the play, but they didn't? More hands, and then they go down. And then I start to get a little bit deeper with some things that we talk about with students. Does anybody have a friend who has ever struggled with depression or anxiety? And more hands. Does anybody have a friend who has ever dealt with violence in their homes or in their community? Some hands go up. Does anybody have a friend whose parents are divorced? For that one, a lot of hands go up, because a lot of people have friends whose parents are divorced. Does anybody have a friend who has ever experimented with drugs or alcohol? And this one, a lot of hands go up. And then I say, does anybody have a friend who's ever had a bad day? And for this one, this is kind of like the punchline, because every hand goes up. And that's what we're here for. We're here for good days and bad days and everything in between. And I'll talk a little bit later about how you can find us and reach us and make appointments with us. But the other thing that I want to do in this presentation is talk about how many people come to see us, because the question was, who needs a social worker anyway? So I want to talk about that, not just what we talk about, but who comes to see us. So the way I like to do that is I think about graduation. And I like to go to graduation every year because it's a nice way to end 4 years of high school with each sort of cohort of students. And at graduation, they have a program with all of the students who are graduating listed in it. And they're divided into their teams, because our school is divided into teams. And in our team, there's about 140 students. And one year, I was sitting at graduation, and I was going through the 140 names on our team. And I had personal contact with 110 of those students over the past 4 years. Now, if you do the math, 110 divided by 140 is like about 75 to 78%. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's up there. And some of those students I had met once in the course of the past 4 years, and they came and talked to me for 5 minutes about some friend drama that they were having. And then I never saw them again, but I've got kind of a stupid memory for remembering names. Some of those students I had seen every week for their entire high school career because their individual education plan said that they had counseling, and so I met with them every single week. But I met with 110 out of 140 students, 78 or so percent, and that doesn't even include the students who the psychologist saw, or the students that saw both of us at some point. So if you look around the room, look to your left, look to your right, front, behind you, chances are every single one of you in this room at some point is going to find their way to the social worker or psychologist's office. And then I got to figure out a way to end because I've got different things to say, but okay, you can stop it.